One of the biggest regrets that people often have as they age is that they didn't have enough time to see the world and now it's too late. Well, when you lead the expat lifestyle that I talk about on this channel, one of the best parts of it is exploring the countries near the ones you are living in for a fraction of the cost. I mean, it's right there, you don't have to fly across the world if you already live in the region. And one of the best destinations for expats is Vietnam for many reasons that I also talk about on this channel. So I'm currently doing a series of videos about more countries that you can easily travel to from there, how to do it and why. In this case, it's Korea. And even if you live in or are traveling across another part of Asia, this video will still be useful to you if you're planning a trip to Korea or want to move there and want to know the how-tos and the whys. By the way, my name is Martin and I've been living abroad for the past 4 years already. Before we continue, however, please don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the Ulitka channel for a lot more information for living the expat lifestyle. So if you live in Vietnam, specifically in the city of Da Nang, you may notice how many Koreans visit it. It's truly a favorite destination for many people from that country. And if there are many representatives of a country somewhere, it means that it's easy to get there. Such is the case with Korea. Korea itself is really an amazing destination to travel to. I honestly don't know how many things you can pack into one small country. What I list here in this video is by no means complete, but here is what we did when we visited. It has since become one of my personal favorites for the infrastructure, the culture and architecture, and the food. First of all though, to get into Korea, even if you don't need a visa, you need to fill out a K-ETA. This is mandatory for everyone in 2025. There is no official time limit for you to fill out the K-ETA, and sometimes you might get approved within like an hour, but even the official website tells you to give at least 72 hours for approval. Because if you don't get it approved before you enter the country, you might have your entry denied, unfortunately, and have to fly back. Or even worse, get stuck in the airport detention center and get deported. But when you've successfully done it and it has been received, you will receive the confirmation letter. Be careful, this is the only website you can do it on. Keep in mind that with these kinds of documents, there is usually a whole bunch of phishing websites or a bunch of other phony or not very phony agencies which will charge you extra money for expedited services. There is no such thing. Or even steal your info, and even the official website warns you about them. Keep in mind that this is not just an arrival card. K-ETA can be denied if you do it too close to your arrival date. That has actually happened to me before. I got an email, here it is, but it will usually be approved fast. But again, give it at least 72 hours. The fee is 10,000 Korean won, which is about $7 to $8, and is not refundable even if your K-ETA is denied. Also, approval does not guarantee your entry into the country either. It's pretty much always to the officer's discretion based on their impression of you. They want to make sure that people don't work in the country illegally, which is a problem in Korea apparently. And by the way, make sure that your passport has more than 6 months on it. This is generally a good idea while traveling anywhere. Many places simply won't let you in if it's less. So once you're in, and you're most likely going to enter via Seoul or Busan, either one is a very easy route from Vietnam, and a two-way flight can cost only $125. Again, this is a hugely popular route. Be careful of the extra costs for baggage though, because most of the airlines that fly back and forth will be low-costers like Vietjet or Jeju Air, which means that you will have to pay extra for luggage. So just keep that in mind. We entered via Seoul. And Seoul is a must-visit in Korea, especially if you're a fan of Korean culture, Korean cinema, or K-pop. It is a huge city, so it can be rather overwhelming even as you choose where to stay. And if this is your first time and you want to explore, I recommend this area. There are lots of landmarks here, temples, palaces, and even Hanok villages. Those are old villages that have been incorporated into Seoul. There's lots of them in the city, and later in the video I'll talk about one of them that we visited. Seoul itself is wonderfully walkable with lots of cozy streets around. We probably did over 20,000 steps daily, but if you're not a walker like us, then you can of course just take Uber or metro everywhere. Although that robs you of the possibility of finding really cool places by accident. I'm talking cafes, and by the way, coffee in Korea is top-notch, restaurants, temples, museums, random vintage streetcars, viewpoints, and who knows what else. And also this is a very safe city, so you won't have to be on guard all the time. When you visit the more popular attractions, keep in mind that it will be quite crowded. But they're still very much worth it, even though there will be a lot of people there. So just be ready for that. We of course visited the Gyeongju Palace, which is probably the biggest attraction in Seoul. And when visiting, you can actually rent hanbok, which are traditional Korean outfits. You can rent them in many different places around the palace to be part of the vibe, as many people do. We didn't. We also did the Doksugung Palace, which has a nice souvenir shop and a really cool cafe on the territory. Aside from that, we took a ride to the Latte World Tower for a beautiful view over the city, though we didn't get very lucky with the weather. We also visited the Insadong Culture Street, which is this really cool artsy street with a bunch of souvenir shops, thanks to which I now have this manly fan for when a storm rolls in and the electricity gets knocked out. Another thing we did is we visited the Bukchong Hanok village. There are a lot of these villages, as I mentioned, all over the city. And one thing that really amazed me is how quiet Seoul can be for such a large city. This is because Koreans value silence a lot. You know just how noisy Vietnam can get if you watch some of my previous videos, and that's exactly what it feels like for people who live in these Hanok villages if they have a bunch of loud-ass tourists around. Frustratingly uncomfortable. So please show respect and keep your voices down, because, you know, when in Rome. What always surprised me though is just how many Koreans travel to Vietnam, considering this very important difference in culture. I mean, Vietnam is an awesome place to visit, but it's not the only one. And if I have any Korean viewers, please write a comment on why Vietnam is such a hugely popular choice for Koreans specifically. Anyway, going back. Other things you can do that we haven't is visit the Seoul Tower for some more awesome views of the city, and the DMZ at the border with North Korea, and if you do go, dedicate a whole day to that, because it will take the whole day. But other than that, there are so many parks, palaces, temples, hiking trails, museums, both in and out of the city, and honestly it makes no sense for me to even try to list it all, because there's just so much stuff to do in Korea and in Seoul specifically. So the next thing we did is we took a train out of Seoul, and there's a couple of ways you can buy tickets. You can just go to the railroad terminal yourself, which is what we did, but you can also buy them online on this website. Now if you travel to Busan, there is a fast train available, but we just took a regular train down to the town of Gyeongju, a small town currently, which actually was the first capital of the Korean kingdom at some point. It takes about 2.5 hours to get there, so not much. And if you do choose to go there, when you get there, keep in mind that the train station in Gyeongju is a bit away from the actual town. But there will be buses that run to the city proper right at the terminal, so just keep that in mind. Traveling to a smaller city is a good chance to see what life in Korea outside of the two largest metropolitan centers is like, and it's super chill generally, and also to see some of the most beautiful temples in the country, specifically the Bulguksa Temple in Gyeongju. This is an incredibly picturesque place to visit, especially if you visit during the foliage season, which we were just too early for, but I know for sure this is going to be a beautiful time to visit, partially because most souvenir postcards and fridge magnets show exactly that, the foliage season. And I'm guessing this is the most beautiful time of the year here. I'm sure this is not the only cool place to visit outside of Seoul and Busan, but I do highly recommend you give Gyeongju some of your time, because this is a really nice town, and again, the temple is worth it, very much so. After Gyeongju, we took a bus to Busan. The bus station in Gyeongju is located right here. We just bought our tickets on this website here, but you can do it at the station as well. Busan is a city very different from Seoul, but it's got a soul of its own. I've always wanted to say that. It comes off less refined and kind of takes pride in it with its unique vibe. You can fly here directly from Vietnam as well, and a flight will cost you about the same as going to Seoul, which starts at around $125. And by the way, the route between Seoul and Busan, if you choose to fly there, I believe is the most popular one in the world, so it costs like $70 for a two-way ticket. So if you do take that route, expect it to be rather cheap and the flights to be very frequent. Like Seoul, Busan is also full of some breathtaking scenery, but there are a lot more steep hills here, so be aware of that if you decide to walk around. The landscape in Busan is kind of reminiscent of Hong Kong if you've ever been, but if you like to walk, then you'll probably find it fun, which we did. When you do explore Busan, you will find some soul-stealingly amazing coffee, great food of course, and many beautiful attractions of its own. To be honest, I should have dedicated more time to Busan. We only came here for a couple of days, so we haven't been to too many places here, but the few points that we did visit were the Haeundae Beach, which is a beautiful beach with some really cool looking skyscrapers as a backdrop, and a bunch of cedar trees lining the beach, which is a nice contrast after Vietnam's palm trees. We also visited the little Dalmaji park nearby with a very nice romantic Moontan road that gets lit up at night in a very cool way. But our favorite part part was the Gamcheon Culture Village. This is an old village built initially in the 1920s for the working class, but later in 2009 it turned into this art settlement. I've read different accounts on its history, and one of the things that I read that at some point it accepted refugees from North Korea in the 1950s. I don't have any evidence on this, but if I have any Koreans among my subscribers, please correct me if you do know. But in 2009, the city of Busan decided to convert this village into sort of an art hub, which is what it is now. And they did a really great job at it, which is why I'm telling you about it. Now, this place is definitely in the spirit of Busan and is super worth going, especially if you view walking all the hills as a benefit to yourself and not as a chore. Some of the advantages will be the views that will open to you. Hikers will definitely understand. Of course, when we got here, we started looking for coffee shops, and one curious place here is the Duff Coffee. It's more of a kind of a fun house than a coffee shop, having this weird combination of a creepy and cute atmosphere. It's like kawaii horror, with actual live ducks that live on the coffee shop grounds that you can feed with duck-safe veggies that you can purchase at the entrance. We both absolutely love this place and definitely recommend that you visit it. As with Seoul, there is a nearly infinite number of things to see in Busan, so it makes no sense for me to even try to list all of the things that we didn't make it to. A couple of things that I did want to do though is ride the Blue Line tram along the coast with lots of scenic stops along the way, and visiting the beautiful Haedong Yonggungsa Temple. Have to come back to the city at some point for sure, maybe even for an extended stay. And if you are considering a move to Korea as an expat, keep in mind that Koreans are super friendly to visitors, but it may be tough to integrate. You have to consider quite a lot of things if you do move. Society here is some of the most homogeneous and hierarchical in the world, so expect to be treated as an outsider if you do move. Considering the fact that this is a high-tech, high social pressure society, it may be very hard to fit in, especially if you don't speak any Korean. But of course, even with all the cultural considerations, living in Korea affords you a very comfortable life in a very developed country, of course, and they do have nomad visas as well, albeit with a rather high income requirement, currently standing at $66,000 per year. I'll reiterate that if you're just visiting, this is an absolutely wonderful country, and the only thing we didn't like was how difficult it was to find fresh fruit in supermarkets and how expensive they were. I swear, we paid like 60 bucks for some oranges, apples, bananas, canned tuna, eggs, and some leafy greens for breakfast. Anyway, after Busan, we flew over to Jeju, which is a volcanic island off the southern coast of Korea. The flight from Busan cost us only about $40 one way. This subtropical island is like a mix of Ireland and Hawaii, with some beautiful volcanic landscapes to explore. In Jeju, we rented a car to get around, probably the smartest choice here. Renting a car cost us only about $35 per day, which is far below ridiculous American prices, and driving here is pretty easy overall. Not much traffic, really chill vibe, easy roads, generally polite drivers, etc. Jeju is also full of attractions, though they're more of a natural kind, some beautiful waterfalls, rock formations, lava tunnels, beaches where you can even surf, and much more. My favorite spots on the island were the Seongsan Ilchulbong, I think it's pronounced, was the Seongsan, God, I'm totally butchering the Korean pronunciation. Seongsan, I don't know how to pronounce this. Seongsan Ilchul, God damn it. Koreans, please don't hate me. Seongsan Ilchulbong, just find it on Google Maps, it's to the east, is this crater-style peak which looks like a giant castle, and the nearby scenic area called Subjikoji. In Jeju, we stayed on the quiet southern coast in a pension, which is a common accommodation style here. Keep in mind that during tourist season, Jeju can get quite crowded, as this is a huge domestic tourism and honeymoon destination for Koreans, and rightfully so. Jeju is worth staying in. This is kind of a blessing and a curse, because on one hand, all the natural attractions in Jeju are well adapted to visitors, but on the other hand, I sometimes felt that it takes away from the natural beauty of places that you can see here. As I said a few times before though, that what we saw in Korea isn't even 10% of what you can see in this country. It really is an incredible place, and I have deep respect for Koreans in terms of what they've done to the country over the past 40 years. Just look at the progress in its political system and how the car industry has evolved, for instance, as well as the constant pressure of having the ideologically opposite Korea to the north. So Korea is definitely a must-visit country, especially if you already live somewhere in Asia, Vietnam in particular. Again, it's very easy to get there from Vietnam. And don't forget that I also have another video on countries that are closest and easiest to get to from Vietnam. The video is right here and in the description. Please let me know if I missed anything in this video, and comment if you have anything to add. But other than that, please don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the Ulitka channel for a lot more on living abroad and seeing the world as you're doing so. Thank you very much for watching, and stay nomad.